Hey everyone, it's Sonia here with the Sonia Janice Show, the I Am podcast. I am spectacular. I am smart. I am sassy. I am Sonia. Who are you? What do you own today? My hair is driving me a little nuts. Just these small pieces. But here's the thing. Again, I own it. I own my shadow. I own who I am. And today we have an amazing guest with us who also owns who she is. She has so many stories to tell. And together we are going to unpack so much. But you know me, I am not giving anything away. So let's bring Phyllis on board with us. Phyllis, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Well, thank you so much, Sonia, for having me here with you today. Um, I am a psychotherapist and an author. I am a mother of three, and I'm also a grandmother. Um, and basically, what my commitment has been as a psychotherapist of over 30 years has been in my latest book, which is called America in Therapy, A New Approach to Hope and Healing for a Nation in Crisis, is to bring all the gifts and all the skills and all the perspectives that I've learned as a psychotherapist over many years, and also having been a client myself, to national conversation and international conversation, because I believe that the same things that traumatize us as individuals traumatize us as a collective, and the same things that help us heal and find our greatest strengths and express them in the world, and how we learn to cooperate with other people in a healthy, mutual way for mutual benefit. All those things that I've learned as a psychotherapist and a client can be applied to national relations and international relations if we understood what those things are that are healing, and if we had the will to use them. So that's really what my commitment has been about. And also in my own healing journey, I've had a lot of what I would call spiritual connection. And so part of my commitment is also to weave together what I consider spiritual and psychological, because actually think they go together. I don't think you can have a healthy spiritual life if you're psychologically really unwell, and vice versa. So, but I'm here to talk about whatever is important to you and meets your audience's needs, and I can talk about as little or as much of all of that as you like.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, a mother of three and a grandmother.
Right.
I am a grandmother too, and I absolutely love it. Isn't it the best thing ever?
The best thing.
The best
Beautiful.
thing. It's like, it's not even like we get a chance to do it again. It's like we are coming from such a
Right.
different perspective,
Right.
and time is different when we're with those little ones, or maybe in your case, maybe they're bigger than mine. Mine's only, Hudson will be 6 this year. So
Mine are all over 10.
there
So
you
one's
go.
12, one's 14, and one's 17.
So
Yeah.
they're at the stage where they're growing fast, but in a different way.
Very fast.
Almost like you blink and you miss it. It's almost like
Yeah.
this It's almost like
Right.
this younger stage is a little bit slower, isn't it? But we don't see that at the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Right.
hmm So
Right.
it's
For
the
sure.
wisdom that we have in looking back. And when we look back a little bit, is that what gave you the like, oh, okay, I'm curious. Maybe I'm assuming it started from looking back, and I shouldn't do that. So I'm going to correct myself right there. When it came to influencing national and international nations, right? That's what you're talking about. You're talking about the people
Right.
of,
Yeah, I'm talking about like sharing what I've learned. In some ways, it's very educational. Like going to graduate school, you learn about family dynamics, you learn about psychodynamics, you learn about intrapsychic dynamics, you learn about group dynamics, you learn about how we interact with each other and affect each other for better or for worse. We learn about the long-term effects of trauma that goes unhealed. We learn about what's needed to interrupt that cycle of trauma and produce some kind of healing and restoration of our, most essential selves. So having learned all that and then been right in the arena of working with myself and other people for so many years, it was impossible not to see that everything I've learned really applies to the collective. And if we knew that, if I could be one little piece of helping educate all of us, um, which, of course I'm not because I don't have that big of a sphere of influence. But if I could be one little piece of adding to what I think could be healing in a world torn apart by war and discrimination and violence and exploitation and righteousness, then I'm going to commit myself to that. And that's what I've done. That's what I'm doing the best I can.
I want to say for those that can't see me right now, I've got my hands together in prayer hands, and I want to
Hmm.
say, that's how I feel. I feel as grateful as I was when I was listening to Christian music a little while ago and praising and singing as I've learned. Okay, this is a small roar. We're okay still, but we all know Chopper seems to take control. My dad's coming home from physiotherapy, so we'll just see how loud Chop Chop gets. And if I have to, I'll mute myself and Phyllis can take over this beautiful conversation wherever I end it. So, um, now where was I? Phyllis, any idea?
Well, I was just talking about my commitment to contributing what I know that I think could help us get along better, end war, and come back into healthy, loving, cooperative, peaceful relationships with one another, because that's what we want in our own
Yeah.
lives. We all want that. We don't want our families to be at war with us. We don't want people to hate us or exploit us or discriminate against us or alienate and ostracize us. We don't want that. And yet, the gap between what we want in our own lives and what we allow and condone to happen on larger societal levels, nationally and internationally, that gap, we have been taught to believe it's a partisan issue, it's an ideological issue, when from my perspective as a psychotherapist, I see it as a mental health issue because mentally healthy people don't bomb each other, they don't kill each other, they don't hate each other. They do everything in their power to sit down at the table and work it out and listen the way they want to be heard. And none of us does that perfectly, for sure. But there's a commitment to nonviolence. And there's no healthy relationship that I know of that condones violence on any level. And so that gap between our personal lives and our collective lives, I'm trying to address in my book, America in Therapy.
I love that because and I totally agree with you. It starts with the person. Let me write this note down, personal lives. And how would you say that? What did you say? Oh, and the collective.
Well, the gap between what we want for ourselves, we all want peace. We want to be provided for. We don't want to be hated for the color of our skin or our gender or our religion. We don't want some kind of righteous indignation condemning us or calling us sinners or forcing us to believe something or, practice a religion we don't want. We don't want to be exploited and we don't want to be bombed. None of us want this. We want peace and love and safety in our own lives. We want to be valued for who we are. And yet we condone policies and behaviors and actions that in an individual family would be considered abuse. They would be considered criminal.
Yeah, we
And
do.
that's a mental health issue. That's a
That
mental
is
health issue.
that is a mental health issue now. Let's talk about some of those because some people might not realize what would qualify as a mental health issue. Because, like you said, what's happening in the collective is also happening in our homes, and it starts in our heads.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
can you share with us? And I have my hands out like a bit of a funnel, gathering information. Can you share with us some of the key traits and behaviors and language and volume that people may or may not realize are actually non-conducive, harmful?
Right. So in my book, and I'll talk about it this way because having been a psychotherapist for so many years, you inevitably will encounter stories of family abuse and dysfunction. That's a lot of what brings people to therapy, even if what they're coming to therapy for is pain in their current relationships and life situation. Most often, the seeds of that pain and dysfunction started a long time ago. in their families of origin, the role models that they witnessed, the expectations that they had in the families of origins that they came from, or the beliefs that the family supported and taught them. And, a lot of people in this country have pretty traumatic childhoods. Our families are not doing well here. And of course, the people whose families are doing well don't come to therapy,
Right.
So
Well, and
you
I
see
wanted I
that
wanted
you
to
see,
interrupt. I wanted to politely interrupt for a second and
sure,
say, there are two different generations that are really running the world right now. Let's talk about it. We're still living with an abundance of baby boomers, and
right.
we're going to address them, but we're also living with not an abundance, but a good volume of Gen Xers who are creeping up right behind the baby boomers in terms of decision making and being holding
Right,
places of power. But in both
right.
cases, and I want to address this because I believe this is very important. I do believe what we've got in the funnel is the same, but in both cases, it might look different. For the baby boomers, those legendary historical people that they lean into are likely family members, are perhaps people they've seen on TV. They are perhaps like when you hear somebody and you're the chances, the percentage of people who are in their baby boomers that make a comment like I am healing myself and I am healing prior generations is almost unheard of.
Hmm.
That is almost like a 50-50 comment in Gen Xers, and that is certainly like a 75% comment in the generation after us. Okay. So what I'm saying here is there are different people, different influencers, a Gen Xer could still be influenced by somebody on YouTube, yet we could still be influenced by our hereditary stream, where
Okay.
again, in it can just look so different for different generations and different people. And I'd love to hear your 2 cents on that, Phyllis.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm totally in line with, I mean, if I totally get
Mhm.
what your question is, but one thing that I would just say is I didn't grow up with social media.
Right.
And that's huge. I didn't grow up with the kind of world that people are living in today, where not only is access to information instantaneous, I had to go to the library and look in the card catalog to find a book with the information that I wanted.
So
And
based on
that's
what you're saying, who, where would you get, where would you go to find your biggest influence? If
Where
you
would
were
I
to
go to
model
when I was
somebody,
young? You mean when I was younger?
even now, if you were to model somebody now, if I were to say to you, who are you modeling? Who do you want to be like? Who do you look up to? Who inspires you the most? Where would you get that from? Where would you look?
Well, what I would say two places. One place is I look to people who have made some kind of healing journey, who can talk about what it was like to live through trauma or to live in an unhealthy family or community situation, and who have healed the wounds that they have suffered in whatever they went through and have come out the other side and created a constructive life, a healing life, and who don't continue to repeat the cycle of what hurt them in the first place, or do their best not to repeat that cycle of harm. So that's one thing. And I love reading biographies and autobiographies for that reason, about people who have actually done some deep work and made some big changes in the way they function in life and their attitudes toward themselves and other people. That's one thing. But the other thing for me, and I think this is a huge issue that is not addressed, on a national level that I've ever heard, is I look to my own inner guidance.
Mm.
I look to myself. I feel like all of the healing work that I've done as an individual, which, I will be in a healing process till I die, because I don't think we're ever done. Um, but all of the healing work that I've done on the traumas of my own life have helped open up my own access to my own inner knowing, my own inner guidance. And I can trust that more and more, and not just rely on what other people say or do. And I think that that balance between being open to what other people have to teach me and learning from my own deepest self, that to me is the best combination.
And I totally agree with you. And I think that right there is the combination for any generation.
Yes, I believe that too.
But there's a caveat. Only the people
Okay.
that do the work are going to know about that.
I think that's really true. And I think we don't prioritize that work in our culture. We're still living for the most part. And of course, there's many people whose voices are never heard who do prioritize that, but they don't reach the headlines. They're not the top of the social media clicks, necessarily, unless you're looking for them. I think we still live in a culture that is very much invested in good and bad, right and wrong. Um, Condemning people and punishing them rather than trying to heal what hurt them and caused their dysfunctional behaviors in the first place.
Okay.
And I think we have a long way to go.
So I do agree with you 100%. We do have a long way to go because this is not, this doing the work, whatever we want to call it, is not yet considered something that authorities search for.
Right.
If they were to prioritize in their political, and I'm being very speaking from the gut here, this isn't something I've researched, but, and I'm not a very political person, but if somebody were to make it a fundamental factor to get a seat in Congress or a seat in Parliament, because I'm Canadian,
Mm,
right? Which, whatever it looks like, but do they do their own work? Do they walk the walk? What does it look like for them? And if they're doing the work, if there's inner peace within, and that comes without naturally, and then that comes in their family life, and then that is easily pulling them to their next level because they're naturally shining brighter and brighter, right? Again, this does
right.
not matter what age group you're in. Now,
Right.
take away the people that do the work, because we know that's a small percentage across the board. As, like my parents right now having this conversation, it would go over their head, and they're the same age, like they're close in age. So take these people that do the work out of the equation. Where are those people getting their influences from? Who are their role models?
Well, I think their role models are what they grew up with. And if they grew up with fighting in their home and somebody has to win or dominate, that's their role model. If they grew up in a home where it was safer to be silent and not speak your truth or express your needs because you might be shamed or blamed or punished or ignored, then you learn to suppress your feelings. If you learn to be a people pleaser as a way to survive, because there were certain expectations, and only if those expectations were met did you stand a chance of feeling loved or feeling like you belonged. Then most likely you're going to carry that out into the world of your adulthood and into your adult relationships, unless you have a chance to witness something else and to have a chance to heal whatever might have hurt you in the conditioning that you had.
I love all of the points that you mentioned there because those are fundamentally the feelings. Those are the factors. Those are the elements, the truths that at the root need to be healed. You're not going to start here, folks.
Right.
It's like peeling an onion. You're going to peel one layer at a time, but that center are exactly the pieces that Phyllis mentioned. You might not see how it's connected now, but keep doing the work and you're going to get to those points. Phyllis, I'm looking at the time. We're going to need to wrap things up shortly.
Okay. Okay.
Before we get too far in terms of wrapping things out, I totally agree with you where, and this is what I was trying to say earlier, for people that don't do the work, and I didn't specify that, their influences come from their family, their hereditary line. They might think their great grandma or maybe a book that they read way back when
Right.
is their influence. They might
Right.
not think of some of the things that we think today because we're on social media or we're open, because literally the people that do the work are open. We're open people, or we wouldn't be listening to this. We wouldn't be curious. So, because we're so curious, we do the work. We're open, we receive. Things are different. Life feels different. There's abundance that shows up in different forms. And then we
And I
believe and
and I,
think differently.
And I was just going to throw in, and when I think for people who have some awareness that when things aren't working in their life, and most often that involves some form of a human relationship that's not working, whether it's with your family or your children or your boss or your friends or whatever, when things aren't working, we still live in a culture that looks for who to blame instead of what drew me to this situation? What might I be replaying here that's not so functional? Are my reactions constructive? And if there's any part that needs healing within me, can I focus there first?
I love that. Again, I'm doing the prayer hands, and this is my gut encouraging me to do this because so much truth. I mean, if anybody's listening to this and you go back, you can rewind exactly what Phyllis said in that little bracket about 2 minutes ago or a minute ago. Make notes, go to her website, get her book, and reach out to Phyllis with more information and questions that you have because I know she is here to help. We've got a couple minutes left. Phyllis, what are the best ways you can help somebody who reaches out to you?
Yeah, I mean, you can just Google my name and you'll find my website. I'm on most of the social media, LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and whatever I forgot there. Um, I have articles on Substack. I think I said LinkedIn, and my you can order my book from Barnes and Noble or Books a Million or any of the major booksellers. American Therapy is my latest book. My first two books that are more about my own healing journey and getting in touch with that inner guidance are called A Light in the Darkness and Into the Fire, and they're also wherever books are sold, you can find them. And you feel free, you can contact me through my website. I'm happy to talk with anyone, answer your questions, provide more information. I have, if you look at my website, you'll see I have a couple of PDFs on conflict resolution and understanding your own conflict type, because one of the biggest things we suffer from in our homes, in our communities, and in our world is that we don't know how to resolve conflict peacefully. Um,
And
and
it
we're not
shows
being
up.
taught that. It
It
shows
shows
up all
up.
the time.
That's all I have to
Hmm.
say before we go. It shows up.
Right, right,
And if you don't address it, don't be surprised when it reappears. And that's
right,
the same thing with relationships.
right,
You are going to get the same story, the same repetitiveness until you can stop and realize what it is you're attracting.
right.
And that comes from a
Exactly.
place of healing. Friends, it
Exactly.
is time to say goodbye. Phyllis, thank you so much for being amazing guest on this show today.
Well, thank you for having me and asking such wonderful questions.
You're very welcome. And this is episode 210. So I will have all of our contact information in the show notes as well as some of the details of the conversation. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode. Have a great day.